This video serves as a walkthrough to anyone who would like to utilize the lighting system in the venue, as well as instructions to operators so they do not mess up the system for any other entity using the venue. I initially wanted to start the walkthrough with super quick instructions to get the lights on and working, but I decided to explain slower so that no one who attempts to use the system rushes through instructions and causes the lights to stop working for any group that uses the venue. While it is easy to avoid causing issues for other groups when you know what you're doing, it can happen easily if you do not follow the steps laid out in this video. The login to the Mac computer will be displayed somewhere in the video, but I ask that you please watch the entire video before operating the system, as well as to receive the login. First, we will go over the house lights. While very easy to understand and operate, I wanted to include this segment so there is no confusion. The house lights are not controlled via the lighting computer, rather they're controlled by the 4 light switches on the left located at the top of the stairs in the tech booth. As displayed in the video, each of the switches controls a segment of the house lights, and each segment can be individually dimmed. The 4th switch controls a few lights that are right out of frame of the front camera shot but can be seen here. Next, we will go over the fixtures and their groups. Each of the following groups mentioned in this segment all translate into the software. First, we have the key lights. There are currently 4 total, and they are mirrored with 2 on each side. They are used to light the platform as well as the center altar space located here. The second group is the drum cage, which consists of 1 fixture acting as an uplight illuminating the backdrop of the cage. In the clip, you can see the panel falling in. I always make sure that this is corrected before service by pushing the panel back into place and making sure the door is flush as it removes shadows and looks more professional. The third group is the Upstage Pars. These are simply some elevated backlighting that gives some height to the lighting on this wall. The fourth group is the movers. These lights are highly flexible and adaptable to help you achieve whatever look you may be going for. The final group is the 8 tube lights. Each tube is individually addressable, allowing for different dimmer effects and static looks, such as gradients shown here. Please ensure that you do not allow any children that may be a part of your group of any kind to play with or handle these fixtures, as they are not toys and can be damaged if not taken care of. Everyone that uses the venue should always put in the effort to ensure that the equipment here is taken care of. There is no on and off switch for the tube lights. To make sure that they are on, all you have to do is ensure the power cable that is hardwired to the power supply is connected to an outlet, as you can see here. We do ask that you leave the tube lights in their place, but if you absolutely must relocate them, please scan the QR code on the top of the case for more information on how to do so safely without damaging them. Final note, the case should always be open when connected to power and being operated. The final thing connected to the computer system is the Hazer. If you would like to use a Hazer for your service or group, follow these instructions. The Hazer will always be off when you first arrive and should always be turned off before you leave to prevent damage to the Hazer. To turn it on, all you have to do is flip the switch located under where the power cable is connected. As shown in the video, it freezes at 1%. If this happens to you, it may be because the DMX cable is connected. All you have to do is disconnect it until it finishes heating up. As you can see, immediately once the cable is removed, it begins heating up pretty quickly. Once it finishes heating up, all you have to do is ensure that the screen says address 87. If it doesn't say 87, adjust it by pressing function and pressing the up or down arrows till it says 87 and press function again to confirm. Lastly, don't forget to connect the DMX cable back into the in port. The last thing for setup is to turn on this fan by making sure the power strip it is connected to is on and the fan speed is set to 2. I make sure that the fan tilt angle is horizontal and is pointing as shown in the video. This fan helps to ensure that the haze travels across the room and doesn't stay stagnant. At this point, you're all set up and have no more fixtures that need to be powered on. To turn everything off when you're done, all you have to do is turn off the fan and flip the switch you used to turn the Hazer on. In this next segment, we'll go over the software and how to safely operate the software without worrying if you're messing up the system for any other entity that uses the venue. When you first get to the venue, the lighting computer will be completely off. To turn it on, simply press the button on the back and wait a moment for it to boot up. This red device is a controller that allows for external control of the software. The faders at the bottom should all be at the bottom position before opening the software. This is to ensure that when you get into the software, you will not be confused as to why lights aren't illuminating. Once you have entered the password, you'll be greeted with this screen. From here, you'll click on the light key icon. Then you will select your dedicated light key file. If you do not have one yet, you can use the guest one. I do ask that no edits or additions be made on the guest file, and if you do wish to make your own creative edits to a project file, that you follow these steps to create your own dedicated file. In the shown visualization, I click on the MC Youth file, but I recommend opening the guest file as it is the file I would consider as a safe default for any group to add to. Once you're in the file, drag your mouse to the top left to show the top toolbar and select Save As. At this point, you will adjust your name to say the venue, your group name in parentheses, and then click Save. At this point, you can exit the current file you're in. Once you exit the file, you should see a new one listed featuring the name of the group that you added. You can safely make edits in this file without messing with the rest of the files listed. You can now open your file and begin operation. When you first open the file, it is possible the controller doesn't fully match the corresponding buttons on the software. The two ways to fix this are to either press all the buttons or to remove the cable connected to the controller and reconnect it, which is what I would recommend. When you first open the project, you will see this preset palette on the right. We usually do not utilize it, so you can go up to this top right icon, click Hide Preset Palette to make more on-screen space. By hovering over this border, you can raise up the bottom live panel to make it more visible. In order to get lights on, you must first make sure that the far right fader, which is the master fader, is all the way up. No matter what you have the other faders set at, the far right fader has the highest priority and will dim everything no matter what. The first four faders left of the master fader all correspond to a group of lights we talked about earlier. Upstage Par are the fader fifth from the right. Movers are the ones to the right of that. Then we have the drum cage. And finally, the tube lights. Right above each fader is a bump button that will set the dimmer to 100%. The lights in the group will remain on for the duration that it remains pressed. This blue and white is the default color for light key before selecting a color for the fixtures manually. To change the colors of a group, find the group you are looking for as it corresponds in light key and select a color. If you deselect any of the selected colors while they are on, it will flash back to the default light key blue and white. I would recommend never deselecting colors completely, but rather changing them if you need a different color, as in this case it will fade nicely. As you may have noticed there, the mover still seemingly flashed, and this is because the moving lights change via a color wheel rather than mixing RGB LEDs. You can always turn down the mover fader before switching colors to hide this, but it is pretty fast and often isn't a huge eyesore, especially during transition moments. Now we're going to take a look at haze operation from the software. If you take a look at the top left of the lighting controller, you can see two orange buttons that correspond to the haze buttons in the software. All you have to do now is select either 1% or 20% haze, and as long as you've done the prior steps required, haze should start filling the room, as you can see by the tube lights. Without key lights, you won't be able to see anyone on the platform, so in order to turn them on, all you have to do is use the two faders on the far left of the controller. The farthest fader on the left turns on the key lights facing the platform, and the fader on the right of that will turn on the ones facing the floor right in front of the platform, in case someone prefers to speak from there instead. All the key lights can be individually dimmed on the live page, but P1 and P6, P9 and P2 are all controlled by the far left fader, and P7 and P8 are both controlled from the fader right of that. So now, in a mixture of having a front key light for anyone talking and the lights on in the back, you have a proper display once you have selected your colors. That is the basics of operating the system, and we will now go into slightly more intermediate operation. If you take a look at the top left section of the lighting controller, you can see a cyan and purple column. The cyan column is for static positions, and the purple column is for continuous movements. Each button on the controller corresponds to a button that you can see on the live screen. this very top left cyan button takes the lights to their home position, which is straight down. I would advise hitting the home position right when you open the project, because if you do not, the movement between positions will not be slow and smooth, but rather will be snappy and distracting. Movements between presets should look like this. The way that presets that are connected on the live screen work is if one item is selected and you select another that is connected to it, it will deselect the first option and select the new one so that no two options are active at the same time. Knowing this can help with ensuring that certain presets do not clash, or can help if you're trying to strategically add effects together. As mentioned before, when you select a movement preset, it will continuously move along a predefined path. To the right of these presets, there is a little speedometer icon. By clicking and dragging up or down, you can change the speed at which the effect runs. If you simply left click without dragging, you can see what speed the effect is running at. Doing this will not activate the preset as well. Be careful not to set the speed too slow, as it will not move smoothly, and be sure not to set it too fast, as it will cause the light to not complete the entire predefined path. In all cases, 1x is the default speed. If you wish to quickly reset to default, you can right-click and select Reset to Default. Make sure not to press Set as Default, as it can make the current speed the new default. If you do accidentally press this, simply scroll to 1x multiplier and set as default 1x speed. If we set the position to the house walls, you can use the gobo's rotation option to create a walk-in look. By selecting the button in the software or the button right above the fader in the gobo column on the external controller, you can initiate the gobo rotation. By using the fader in the gobo column, you can leave it set at below 1x speed for the slowest rotation, or above 1x for even faster rotation. You can also manually select a single gobo by using this column to get a specific static gobo. There are two pink buttons in the column, and they are marked for when you set the mover position to the upstage wall. These two pink gobos are the most symmetrical ones and look best on the wall. I would always recommend using a gobo when using movements such as pan over chairs, as it prevents from solid light shining into eyes and it breaks it up and looks better. For worship services, I will always turn off the haze at the beginning of the last song so that it will begin to dissipate for the sermon. The third fader from the left currently doesn't do anything and is open to be mapped to anything you may find useful. The way that you map buttons on the external controller to presets on the live page is by right-clicking on the button you want to map and click on where it says external control. From there, all you have to do is either press the button or move the fader that you want to map. If a button has the option to remove a trigger, you should do that first if you're trying to remap, but if you're trying to intentionally have one fader or button activate multiple presets or faders on the live page, you can also do that. That would behave similarly to how the far left key light fader activates multiple faders on the live page. This is the color override section, and it is where you will achieve greater looks than just solid colors. There are currently only 5 presets, but you can easily add more looks. When you click on a preset in this section, it will override the colors that you have selected on the columns to the left, as well as the colors selected on the external controller, as they are connected. With a color override selected, you can see that the button on the controller does not affect the output. You will only see the changes made on the controller once you deselect the color override. In order to create a new color override, it is a pretty simple process. All you have to do is go up to the top right button here and select Edit. From here, you will click on a gradient option if you're trying to create another gradient, or the solid color option if you're trying to create a solid color override. With the preset selected, you will press Start on the keyboard and C at the same time to copy the preset, and Start and V to paste the preset. Start on this keyboard is the same as Control on others. You will then drag it down, making sure it is connected to the other presets. You will know that it is connected when it shows the red line on the border of the two presets. You will then right-click the new copied preset and select Edit Ad Hoc Properties. Now it has opened the design panel, and in here you can see that with all the tube lights selected, that there is a color fanning effect on the tube lights. If you click into the fanning effect, you can edit the colors by selecting the fixtures at the ends and adjusting the colors to your liking. The remaining lights are on their own color fanning group, so select those to match, or you can do a complementing design. Once you're happy with the look, make sure to select Update at the top. The last thing I would recommend is naming your preset by right-clicking and selecting Rename. For gradients, I typically follow the naming scheme of the name of the color on the left, then the letter L for left, then the name of the color on the right, then the letter R for right, then the word gradient. Make sure to press Enter when you're done. At this point, you have successfully created a new color override that can be seamlessly transitioned to. That sums up all the intermediate level information. This video will be updated to include one more advanced segment that will go over how to use the dimmer effects section as shown on screen, but feel free to mess with the effects yourself in the meantime. When you're done with your meeting in the venue, make sure to turn off the master fader before closing the software so that all the lights turn off. Click the red close button at the top of the window and click close and shut down the computer as shown on screen. Remember to turn off the hazer and fan and you're good to go. This is just a beginning template, and as long as you're on your own group's light key file, you're free to add, remove, and switch up buttons, faders, and presets. There are plenty of videos online of how to use light key as well, so don't limit how you use the software to how I've laid things out. Please only use this computer for operating the lighting software and nothing else. Thank you for watching the entirety of this lighting walkthrough. God bless.